Hello everybody, welcome to Network Soup. I'm your host Kaz Campbell, and today I'm going to take you through the OSI model in less than 5 minutes. So let's get started. So what is the OSI model? Well, OSI stands for Open Systems Interconnection, and it is a 7-layer conceptual model detailing how different computer systems can communicate with one another. The model uses these 7 different layers to describe what's going on within a particular network. It's important to note, while OSI was developed in the late 1980s, TCP/IP took over as the standard for internetworking. So although the modern internet doesn't strictly follow the OSI model, it's still useful to know for troubleshooting network issues. So now that we have a good idea of what the OSI model is, let's go ahead and look at the 7 layers and break them down by function. As you can see here, I've got a chart with 3 different columns. The first is going to be PDU, which stands for Protocol Data Unit. Now think of this as the type of information that's being sent over the network, whether that be a packet, a frame, a segment, so on and so forth. Next we have the layer name, which is simply the name of the layer, and last but not least is the function. This is going to elaborate on what each layer does and what function it performs. So what I'm going to do here is actually fill in the layer name and the functions first, then at the end of that we'll come full circle and fill out the PDU side as well. Alright, so the first layer is the application layer. Now think of this as providing the GUI, the graphical user interface. This would cover things like your web browser, for instance. It is the interface that you use to interact with the application. The next layer is the presentation layer. This layer handles data representation and also handles encryption and decryption. Next, we have the session layer, which manages and terminates sessions between end-user applications and processes. So for example, when you click the X in the upper right-hand corner on YouTube, you're closing that session with YouTube. Moving on to the next one, we have the transport layer. This layer ensures complete and reliable delivery of data packets between the upper and lower layers. In layman's terms, this layer is responsible for making sure that your data actually gets to you. Make sense? Good. So next we have the network layer, and this is responsible for routing packets based on IP information. To break that down a little bit further, this is responsible for who's sending and who is receiving that information over a network. Alright, and now we're on to the data link layer. This is responsible for distributing frames to physical addresses. So think of working with MAC addresses with this layer. It's much more localized than the layer above it, the network layer. And last but not least, we have the physical layer. So this is the transportation medium. Think wires and radio signals. This layer is all about the transportation medium, whether you're using wireless, fiber, Ethernet, whatever it may be. So now that we have the 7 layers, let's break down the PDU for each layer. The top 3 layers, application, presentation, and session, are real easy. They're all data. Then we have segments for the transport layer, packets for the network layer, frames for the data link layer, and bits for the physical layer. Now, a good way to memorize this, if you go from the top down, I always think of it as Dan did do something positive for Bitcoin. If you can remember that, you should be able to pretty quickly associate the PDU types to each layer. So expanding upon that, what is a good way to remember the OSI model in general? Well, from the top down, you can always remember it as all people seem to need data processing. And from the bottom up, we can think of it as please do not throw sausage pizza away. If you can at least remember the layer names and then relate it back to this mnemonic, you should have an easy way of remembering each layer of the OSI model. Alrighty folks, there you have it. I hope this has given you a better understanding of the OSI model and remembering the layer names. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, have a great day.